Welcome to Broadway Drumming 101. My guest today is Patrick Phalen the fourth.
Yep.
How are you today?
I'm doing well on this.
Nice.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you are on this Shucked tour, and you are in what city now?
Schenectady, New York.
How long have you been on the tour?
We started rehearsals in New York when we start September, and then we started tech in Providence October. So I left the city in October. So 6 months, half a year.
Being
I
on
lose
the
track of
road, being
time.
on the road can be brutal sometimes. Do you find yourself getting burned out? And if so, how do you handle the rigors of the road?
Yeah, it can definitely be. I think the hardest part is the 8 shows a week just on the body because we don't really have the opportunity to sub out unless we plan it way in advance. And it's I get someone that subbed the show on Broadway to come out and take over for me for a week. Anything less than that usually doesn't make sense due to travel and housing and what the company has to pay for. So yeah, the 8 shows is hard, but I'm learning how to balance that and make sure the body stays in shape, doing PT and stuff. That's one way to save yourself. But also, just outside of the show, I feel like one thing that's been saving me is just getting out and exploring the little towns or cities we're in. My buddy, the guitar player Andy, and I, we try to go golfing once a week.
Oh, wow.
We're not good. We find a cheap course or a decent course and we go and we'll go to the driving range and we'll hit and then we'll play 9 holes and but just getting out and walking and exercising and breathing in the clean air, that's definitely beneficial. And then I've gotten really into pickleball.
Oh,
Play pickleball anywhere. So we got a small group in the cast and crew that are super into it as well. And we go and play for a couple hours just to kill some time and exercise. I think that helps a lot, gets the energy going and the blood flowing.
you have your golf clubs on tour?
I don't. Andy, the guitar player, he drives the entire tour. So
Oh,
he
wow.
has, which is a huge perk. So he keeps his clubs in his car. And then if we want to go golf 30 minutes away, he drives there. So definitely helps.
Do you have a pickleball paddle?
Oh, yeah. Those are right over there in my bag. I got two of them.
Yeah, I played once with my son last summer, and I was like, wow,
It's
it's
fun.
like a little, like little ping pong, but a life size ping pong
Yeah.
thing.
I
But
think that's
it's,
why I like it because I grew up playing ping pong.
wow, really?
I was not, yeah, ping pong. My dad was really good at ping pong, Patrick number three.
Okay.
And so we always played growing up. But I never got into tennis, but I wanted to. And I tried tennis and I was really bad at it. But then pickleball is just a little scaled down tennis and more like
Mm.
ping pong. I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this.
So, speaking of growing up, you grew up in Wisconsin, right?
Yes.
And what was the first thing that made you say, you know what, I want to play drums for a living?
It's a good question. I feel like I had a really interesting journey. Both my parents are musicians. Gosh, when I was in preschool, I started taking piano lessons. Both my siblings did as well. Like piano, our parents were like, this is something you have to do. Those strict musician parents were like, piano. So I started playing piano. And then I eventually got a drum set, I think, when I was in third grade. And then once I got to high school, I had the choice. My parents were like, okay, you've done piano this long, you can stop or continue. And I stopped for a little bit, but then I missed it and started doing it again. And towards the end of high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to do, I didn't think I wanted to do music. I was like, I want to make money and I think initially I went to school for biology as like a pre-vet major, like a veterinary sciences, because I love animals, on to vet. And so I did that for a year. In that year of college, my freshman year, it was fun, but there was something missing. And I knew it was music. I was like, oh, this is all wrong. I'm doing this all wrong. I need to be playing, doing music. And so, I told my parents, I was like, I have to move schools. I need to go play percussion, play the drums. My parents were like, yeah, they knew it's what I was going to do, but they
Mm.
didn't want to tell me. I think that was a really nice thing where they're like, you have to figure it out for yourself. You have to decide for yourself and find the path because they're both musicians and they do the thing. But the one stipulation was if I go into music, I had to get a music ed degree. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm going to be playing and stuff. So then I got to college, transferred schools, started music ed. And music ed was fine. I wasn't a fan of it. I'm like, I'm not going to be doing this. My goal is to play. And then I remember throughout I think like the first and second year, I started moving my way up with the jazz bands in University of Wisconsin Eau Claire has a really well-known jazz program. They don't have a jazz degree, but they have Grammy nominated jazz bands in like high level. And I remember when I finally got to the top jazz band, it interfered with some of the music ed classes that I had to take. So I had to make a choice, either play in this jazz band or not do the top jazz band and go play or go do music ed. And I remember driving home because I was only an hour and a half away from where I grew up. Drove home like pretty much in tears, being like, I've worked so hard to get to this point to play in this jazz band, but now I won't even be able to do it with my music ed degree because classes are at the same time when rehearsals are. And I was like, I need to play. And then my parents were like, yeah, do it. Switch your degree. Like you just needed to prove to yourself that you could work hard at it and get better in practice and actually make something of yourself rather than just going down the music ed path. With nothing wrong with the music ed path, but it wasn't for me. So I think that was one of the big aha moments, full circle, where I was like, this is what I'm doing. I need to play. I need to do the thing. That was a big one. And then I think the next summer I auditioned for this little group called Kids from Wisconsin. It's like a really big show choir thing with a band on stage. And then you just do a bunch of medleys, like a rock medley, a country medley, a movie medley for all the movies. We did a Broadway medley for all the songs that were on the new Broadway shows. And that was my first like touring gig. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. I'm playing, we did 5 shows a week, but we all get on the bus in the morning and then drive to wherever in Wisconsin and set up the show, do stuff with the schools there, and then play the show and then tear everything down and go to the next spot. So it was doing that. I was like, wow, like this is actually a thing. I can do this. So I feel like that was another big aha moment where I was like, okay, we're going to figure this out so I can continue to do this throughout my life.
Both your parents are musicians.
Yes.
Were they professional musicians? That's all they did?
Yes, no. So starting off, my dad was a professional trumpet player for a long time. He's played with a lot of big names and stuff that come through Wisconsin. He would get these union gigs. He's played with Temptations. He's played with Frankie Valli. He's played with Wayne Bergeron. Like he's got a laundry list. So he was doing that before me and my siblings were born. And then when we were born, he went into the music ed side of it. And he was like a fine arts coordinator. He still played and he had bands. And my mom has always been a middle school band teacher. She loved, I don't know how she does it, but it's like, she's been my dream job forever. And it takes a special person to do that. And we need those people. And one of them's her. So she's always done that. But then my dad kind of settled down when they had us. Now my dad's retired and he's back to playing full time. So it was like a little moment of time where we were growing up and he was doing the education stuff, but now he's been able to go back into playing full time. But yeah.
So neither one of them played drums. Now, why did you pick the drums?
That's a good question. I feel like weirdly enough, that was what's the word for it? I was like revolting against, if that's the right word, revolting against what they wanted because my dad was a brass player. My mom was a woodwind. I was like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. Like, I want to do something else because my sister played clarinet just like my mom. And then my younger brother was doing the trumpet just like my dad. And I'm like, I'm the middle child. So I'm like, I'm gonna do something that no one else is doing. And I'm going to focus on the drums and play the drums. I'm pretty sure I remember in middle school, my mom was like, I don't think she really wanted me to play the drums because she was like worried that I was going to get bored of it and drop band and do something else. But I proved her wrong.
What was the thing that made you look at the drums and say, I want to play that instead of bass or guitar or ukulele?
Ukulele. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to I feel like when I would see my dad's bands play or we'd go see live music, I would always just watch the drummer. Didn't really matter what else was going on stage. I was so fascinated by the dude or the gal or whomever, the person sitting behind the kit, what they were doing. And I think I was just attached to that. There was nothing like specific. Holy cow, that was really cool. It was just like, wow, what they're doing.
So when
If
you
that makes
started playing, did you obviously you took lessons, private lessons,
Yeah.
and were you listening to a lot of pop music? Were you listening to sound cast recordings?
Weirdly enough, no. The stuff that I grew up listening to was a lot of the stuff my dad was listening to. The first song I learned on the drums was how do you pronounce it? Luai Luai. You know that song? Let me look this up. I'm sure you've heard it and played it 100 times by the Kingsmen.
Oh, Louie Louie?
Louis Louis. Yeah, I don't know why I was saying Luai Luai.
Oh, from the 60s. That yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, Louis Louis Kingsman. That was the first song I ever learned on the drums. I remember that was the
Okay.
kind of stuff that I was playing along to at my younger age.
So you were you did you eventually get into the music of your generation?
I don't think I ever did. I always listened to what I always liked what my dad was listening to. He was really into Chicago,
Mm.
Doobie Brothers, that 70s soft rock. And that's the stuff I still love to this day and the stuff that I still listen to. There's a couple like more popular bands that I listen to, but nothing like I don't really listen to like Billie Eilish or Sabrina Carpenter. I couldn't really name any of their songs, if I'm being honest. If I've had to learn them, it's been for like wedding gigs or bar gigs where it's, oh, okay, this is that
Right.
type of song. But yeah, I never really was drumming to those songs because I was always listening to what my dad was listening to and playing along to that. Yeah. Even to
Were
this
you
day, I'll warm up on the drums with the Chicago song
okay?
because it's good.
Do you have a favorite Chicago song? There's so many great songs that Danny played on.
Yeah. I'd say Beginnings.
Oh my God,
That's with
yeah.
that string guitar.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a good one.
So you went to college and were you studying jazz there or is I know you were doing the music ed thing
Yeah.
eventually, but
Yeah. I switched over. Yeah, so we didn't have a jazz degree. So I actually am classically trained. I have a classical percussion degree. So I was playing in the wind ensemble
mm,
along with the jazz band and an orchestra. So I was learning the marimba etudes and learning a little bit of vibes, a little bit of jazz vibes, and your concert percussion, snare drum, all that stuff. So that's technically what my degree is, I guess, classical music liberal arts, classical percussion.
did you ever see yourself auditioning for an orchestra?
No. I think it was cool. The cool thing about Eau Claire was how, because they didn't have that jazz degree, in order to play jazz and do all that stuff, I feel like you have to have just these foundations of understanding of your instrument. And I feel like you really get that through through learning classical. If you have that understanding and your brain works a certain way where then you can relate and tie everything to jazz. For us, a lot of technique and like how you're touching the drums and how you're hitting the drums. I learned that with the concert percussion stuff. And then going to drum set, I was able to incorporate the different touches and the tones and dynamics and stuff. That's what they hounded for the classical percussion degree. It's like, how are you hitting the drum? How are you pulling the sound out? How are you creating
Mm.
the sound that the person wants? And adding that into my back pocket, it's a whole different world than you can get into. And then obviously you have to study the greats and listen to all the jazz records and big band stuff. But you can relate the two and you can hear what people are doing, I guess.
Before we got on this call, we were talking about being up late and watching TV. Have you seen, I don't know if you're into documentaries at all, but have you seen the documentary? I think it's called Yacht Rock.
Funny you should say that. I watched that on my flight on Monday
Okay.
because yacht rock is probably one of my favorite genres of all time. If I could do
I,
anything, it would be yacht rock.
it's great stuff, man. Yeah, I think down the road, I think maybe there should be a Yacht Rock musical.
I Whoever's doing that,
Call
I will
Patrick.
happily be there. Because wait, like with the yacht rock, with that video, that documentary, they're talking about how it was like it was incorporating all these jazz chords and just like more of rather than just like the four chord, the three chord kind of basic chord structures. With Steely Dan, they were just like, oh, they were just taking all these jazz chords and then making it, I don't want to say more listenable, but just like more, maybe more easy to connect with on a broader scale. And yeah, it's genius.
And the beginning of Minute by Minute, that
Oh,
piano thing. So after college, did you decide to stay in Wisconsin for a while? Did you want to come to New York? Like come to New York?
So through college, when I decided I was dropping the music ed and I wanted to play, I was talking to one of my drum teacher, and I was like, I grew up with musical theater. I had the DVD of Cats. I think it was the West End recording. And so I've watched that 1,000 times. I love Andrew Lloyd Webber. I love Jesus Christ Superstar, Cats, you name it. I played musical theater in high school. I did all my high school shows, whether I was on stage, in the pit, doing lights or sound. I did it all because I just loved it. I loved the atmosphere. And from there, when I was in college, I was like, I love musicals. Where are musicals? I'm like, oh, New York. So then I started getting in that conversation of how does this path evolve? Who can I talk to? Who can I ask for advice? And then I think Larry Lelly was one of the first people I talked to because he went to Eau Claire as well. And he was like, come to New York. And I was like, great. And then one spring break, I bought a ticket and I flew out to New York, and I was like, this place is incredible. The Broadway is insane. I sat with Sean McDaniel when he was at Frozen. And then I sat with Larry when he was doing Come From Away.
Mm.
I was like, wow, this is super cool. This is just doing the thing that I've really enjoyed doing just at a super high level. And I can totally do this. After college, I worked at a repertory theater out in Colorado to build a resume. And then then I got on a cruise ship for a while. And then I did another cruise ship. And then I booked the non-union elf tour. And then at that point, I was like, I didn't really have a home. So I was just on the road jumping from gig to gig. All my stuff was in Wisconsin still, but I wasn't living there. And then I was like, I want a home base. And I'm like, New York is where I want to be because it has everything that I want to do. And so then I finally made the jump. I think that was like 3 years ago now.
2022.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm still like very New York. People are like, oh, you haven't even lived here yet. And I'm like, think I did, but I guess I really didn't in the grand scheme of things. But yeah.
Well, you came here and you wind up connecting with a bunch of people. We connected. I can't remember how we connected. I think you just might have reached out to me
Yeah, I think I
somehow.
just sent you an email and then
Yeah.
yeah, it was great.
But you obviously got in and you started subbing when you got here.
Yeah.
Who was the person that gave you the shot, and what was the show that you first subbed on?
Yeah, that was Emma Ford at Shucked, which was what I'm still playing to this day. I actually met Emma through Shannon Ford. It was another time where I came to the city before I moved here. I hit up Shannon and Josh because they were still at Beetlejuice. I was like, hey, I'm in town. Can we hang out between shows? And they're like, yeah. Shannon was like, I'm bringing a friend. And I'm like, great. The more the merrier. And the friend was Emma Ford. And then we stayed in touch for a couple months. And then when I finally moved to the city, I was like, Emma, let's hang out. I don't think she had anything going on at the time, but just to hang out, make a friendship, make a connection. I think it's a deeper meaning than just networking. It's like actually trusting each person. And yeah, we just sat and we just talked forever. And then 2 days later, so I have this show that's potentially coming that I'm going to be taking over. Do you want to sub? And I was like, am I ready for this? I've literally been in the city for a month, and some people are there for years and they don't get the shot. But it came down to just connecting with someone and creating a friendship and having them trust me and me trust them. I think it was her second show. So she was still figuring out who her subs were and finding people who were available. And I had nothing going on, so I'm very available. And that's why I played the show so many times, because the subs were me, Dan Berkery, who he's a busy man. And then Rosa, she's busy. And I was always the person that's, oh, I have to cancel my catering shift to go play on Broadway. Okay. So sorry, work, I'm not coming in. I have to play. I could do that, which was great. But yeah, that was a long tangent.
So tell, I don't know if you can tell the story of how the whole thing with Shucked and how it started with somebody else and then Emma got the gig and
Yeah. Basically, so Chris Jago is Jason Howland. He orchestrated, arranged, Shucked. Jago's his drummer. They work together hand in hand. Jago lives out in LA. But yeah, basically, so he came and writes the book, works with Jason because him and Jason just see eye to eye and Jason trusts him. He does all that heavy lifting at the front, gets the show off the ground, and then goes home. He had a great relationship with Emma where Emma would come and take over for him for Shuck.
is was Jason doing The Great Gatsby too?
Yes, yeah. Jason composed
Ah.
that one. So Shucked he arranged for Brandy and oh, now this is gonna look terrible.
I'll edit it out.
Brandy and the other guy that wrote the music with Brandy, the Nashville country artist that wrote Shucked. Jason
Okay.
just orchestrated, but Gatsby, Jason like fully composed, wrote all
Mm.
for it.
And then you got a chance to sub for Emma and you were subbing there for a while. Did you get a chance to get on any other shows?
I did some off Broadway stuff. Curious, can't even remember the time though. I think when Shucked was running, I was mostly just at Shucked. I like played at some high school shows on the grind. So I did some college shows out on Long Island, some high school shows like over in New Jersey, just around Manhattan. And then yeah, I think that was all during Shucked. That was basically Shucked. But after Shucked, when I got back from that little tour, then I started playing over at White Rose, which was an off-Broadway show. And then I subbed for Teeth for Marcus.
Great guy.
Incredible human. And then Great Gatsby started on Broadway. So I was doing double duty with, I think Teeth was still going at that time as I was doing Great Gatsby. So
You subbed on
little
Great
here and there.
Gatsby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
At Great Gatsby,
yeah.
that was Jago. Again, he started it, but then Skylar Fortgang took over.
Skylar, that's it.
Yes.
Yes. Another great drummer.
Another great drummer. We have a good community.
Telling you, Skylar, Derek, you, Mark is a little bit older. Emma, Ryan,
Yeah.
all you got guys and gals.
Yeah. And the cool part about that is I can genuinely say we're all friends and we go to baseball games together. It's not always about drums. It's like we're just hanging out.
Yep.
But yeah.
Good. The Shucked show, I really enjoyed it. And I liked the music. And when I was on the Broadway cruise last year, I played the song Independently Owned.
Oh yes.
I love that song, man. The groove is cool. It's funny.
Yeah.
When the show closed, did you get the tour before they announced the closing of Shucked on Broadway?
I didn't have an official offer, but it was basically that I was doing it. Like when it said I was going out on tour, I was like, I haven't done a union Broadway tour of that extent. I just did the non-union Elf, which was 2 months. And I was like, this is something I've always wanted to do. How do I do it? And I told Emma, I was like, I'm interested. And she was like, okay. And then she told Jason, and then yeah, then it was basically just waiting for John Miller to call me.
So for people that don't understand, is there an audition process or is there anything that you have to do to be considered to be the drummer for a Broadway show on tour?
From my views, it's just all the connections. And then I think it helped that I subbed there because Jason trusted me, Emma trusted me, and they heard me play and they're like, he can do it. He understands, you're not just playing musical theater, you're still playing these genres organically in a way. It's still musical theater, but you're not playing like musical theater. We're doing a country rock show, a country pop show. So I think that really helped them trusting me and just being like, for people trying to do it, I think the best thing to do is network and meet the people that are on the shows, meet the MD, meet the drummer, make those connections and get in there any way you can. So those opportunities, when they arise, you have someone that you can connect with and be like, hey, I'm interested in this. No,
You say networking, so somebody doesn't know how to do this. How do you connect somebody? How do you meet people that are in this business?
I usually just email. I think it depends on just what generation you're reaching out to. There's certain people I wouldn't just message on Instagram or Facebook, but there's other people that I would feel comfortable doing because maybe I know them through someone or we haven't met yet, but we know of each other. Then sending a message on Instagram or Facebook, I'd feel more comfortable doing. But for the most part, it's just I try to just type up a super short email being like, hey, I'm a drummer in New York or wherever. This is something that I'm working towards, that I'm trying to do. I would love to just chat and grab a beer, grab coffee, grab food. Everyone says that, but it's so true. Just be like, I'm happy to buy you a drink. Just offer, if you're going to give me some advice, I'm willing to pay you for your time. And most of the time people are like, no, let's go get a coffee and hang out and chat. But then from there, it's important to keep the dialogue going, reach out, check in with people and say hi and make a connection, make a deeper connection than just like a work connection. I feel like is important. Just learning who the person is rather than just being just a drummer. They're a human being.
That's true.
But
What's the most fun and or the most challenging part of playing these various styles every night?
yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I jotted some notes down so I wouldn't forget stuff because I was like, look, there's so much going on. I feel like it is challenging balancing the times I'm playing musical theater. I'm playing this little two beat boom chicka boom chick, or I'm playing the train beat on the snare drum where I'm really wailing and getting that pop from the snare drum, or the song Somebody Will, where you're playing this slow rock halftime ballad. I think it's challenging because the show moves really quickly. So there's a lot of just little short segments of I'm playing this backbeat groove for 4 measures, and then I'm going to a country 2 beat feel. And within that switch, the click also speeds up 6 BPM.
Mm.
And then you're playing that country 2 beat feel for another 8 measures, and then the click speeds up another 10 BPM. So I think that's a really challenging part of the show is just you need to know the show really well because there's so many shifts, tempo and feel. And when that tempo and feel changes, you don't really have time to be like, okay, where is it? Let me find it. It's like when the downbeat of that next measure comes, that's a different tempo or feel. It's like you have to place it exactly where it is because everyone else is going off that. I think that makes it challenging. It's not cats. We're not playing in 15/8, 7/8. There's a couple 3/4 measures, I think, in this
Mm.
show. Everything else is 4/4, 2/4.
Okay.
So it's nothing. We're not mathematicians over here. We're just, but nailing it to the point where, boom, this is where it is. Boom, this is where it's going. Leading through those sections so it sounds as one rather than it's not jolting. I think that's one thing that makes it pretty difficult. I think also it's a very guitar heavy show. And so a lot of things that I do, a lot of the parts that I'm playing, there's a lot of space. I'm playing quarter notes on the ride. I'm playing snare on 3 and then whatever the kick pattern is. Because the guitar is doing a lot of the subdividing. The part being country, being bluegrass, those are a lot. It's a guitar-led genre in a way. So it's fun to see where you can add little things, but at the same time, it's important to not overplay because it can get muddy because then you're fighting with a more important part in the guitar part, in the melodic part that you don't want to cover up that needs to be heard. I think those are some of the challenging things.
How much of the show is on click?
I'd say about 80%.
Okay.
Most of the songs, and I think that also goes with because there's only 5 of us. So there's a lot of I play a lot of extra percussion stuff Another challenging thing is like all the choreography because I'm reaching, grabbing different things, washboards, spoons, you name it. But there is a lot more that's running through Ableton in the click tracks. And then there's some songs that have MIDI horns and stuff, like independently owned has horns, but there's not a lot of
Mm.
songs with horns in the show, so they don't want to hire a trumpet player to play on two songs. But I think that's why it's more heavily clicked.
So there's guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, and what else?
Two, yeah, for the tour, we have guitar one who plays like banjo, mandolin, steel guitar, all these other guitars. The AMD plays acoustic guitar and then keyboard, synth, piano, bass, and then drums. So not a lot of us doing a lot of things.
Is your drum set in the pits of these theaters, or are you in a booth?
I'm in a booth. They travel a booth, and just with the sound design, I'm never in the pit. So sometimes I know I think that's the hardest part about doing the
Yeah.
musical thing. It's like,
When I last year when I subbed at Hadestown, there were some times where I was in a completely different area, but they're like, okay, here's the stage and here's backstage, and you're in the building over here. I'm like, what?
yes.
I'm like, oh man, you're there by yourself. And then intermission comes, you're like, nobody's around. It can get lonely at times, but I found my way to the actors just to talk to somebody.
Oh yeah, totally. I do the same thing. I have my rounds during intermission where I'll go up to the dressing rooms and be like, "Hey, I'm still here. You may not see me, but no, there was where were we? We were in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and super cute little town. But there was the main theater, then there was the Black Box Theater, which was like a ways away. I was in the Black Box Theater.
Oh my
I
God,
was in a
really?
different theater to the show.
What?
They had to buy longer cables so they could run it to my drum booth. And I was like, could just put me in the pit.
That's what I'm saying. That's crazy.
But we're too loud. We're too loud. Whatever.
And there's only five of you. That's crazy. Only five of you. Four of you are in that pit, and you're someplace else.
Oh, they have so much space. A lot of some of these houses are huge and the pits are just as big. And it's like, you could fit three of me in there with everybody else.
I wonder why they don't just set it up in the pit so you can be next to them.
It's the explanation I get is the way the sound was designed for the show. That's just how it is. Yeah.
Playing in bands, which I've done all my life until I got to Broadway, where it's still a band. Most of the stuff I've done have been band oriented.
Yeah.
But when you're playing in a booth separate from everybody, you're just there by yourself. You can hear them, but you don't feel them, and you don't get that. You don't see them moving their hands and moving their body along to the music.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the fact that you're so separated, and how do you maintain your musicality, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I'm still learning as I go because I don't think there's really like a good way to deal with it yet. I have my conductor monitors. So I find myself just staring at the conductor, even though by this point we can all do the show blindfolded because we know how it moves. Obviously, there's things here and there, but I'm just staring at him and watching him play. I feel like
Do you read music still or memorized it yet?
I still read the music. I'm a person that
You still
I
want that?
never, yeah, I need it up there. And I feel
Okay.
like with this show, there's a lot of weird little, I hit a lot of like blings and sound effects on the SPD and
Mm.
it's specific numbers. And I'm like, I probably have it memorized, but what if I all of a sudden have a brain fart and I'm like, oh, what bling am I supposed to hit? And then it's totally the wrong key, which has happened before, but we're humans.
So speaking of playing with other humans, you played with Ruben Studdard and Clay Aiken. For those people that are too young who don't know who they are, they were the first two winners of American Idol, I think.
I think it was this, was it the
Second
second?
and third.
I think it was the second or third season.
Did they compete against one another?
So Ruben got first and then Clay got second. So yeah, they're on the same season.
Now, how did you connect with that, and what was that experience like?
Funny enough, I got in with that because of Shucked. And that's the thing that I've learned is always play how you want to play because you never know where something's going to come. Daniel Edmonds, I don't know if you've met Daniel. He's one of Jason's, he was like the other MD. When Jason was busy, Daniel would conduct Shucked. And so I played with Daniel a handful of times and we chatted a little bit backstage, but it wasn't anything like we became just like best friends. It was just brief. Hey, this was like January. I remember I didn't even have his phone number. He just texted me out of the blue. He was like, hey, this is Daniel. I have this gig that I think you'd be good on. Let me know if you're interested. I was like, yeah. And then he was like, yeah, it's this tour with Clay and Ruben. We're going to take over and finish out the rest of the tour in a month, less than a month, I think, maybe. It was just from him hearing me play and me playing with him. I think he said, you hit the drums hard and I like your sound and your feel. And I was like, thank you. That means a lot, especially any drummer that gets told, okay, we're doing
Hmm.
something right. I got it from playing a country musical because I played drums a certain way. That experience with them was probably one of the best experiences of my life. Sleeping on the tour bus, going and playing these shows. I think the craziest part was learning the show. So like those pop rock tours and stuff, they don't have music. And when because Daniel knew Clay's agent, and so they connected, and then he needed to hire the band, and basically they sent me a Vimeo video of the show, and that's it.
Here you go. See you on the tour bus. See you
And
on
I
stage in
said,
10 minutes.
yeah, I had 2 weeks.
Damn. So you just had to like, did you write your own charts or did you just memorize it?
I wrote my own charts. I just jotted the forms down. And
Mm.
then because we were replacing the band, and it was the same show, I wanted it to still have the same integrity. And we were
Hmm.
replacing a gospel band. And I'm like, no better way to learn some gospel chops than transcribing some of the stuff that this drummer did. Because the guy before me, he was incredible drummer. I cannot remember his name right now. But yeah, like just flying through the show. That band was crushing it. So yeah, I extracted the audio from the Vimeo video because I was able to download it. And then I put it into Logic so I could slow it down and speed it up.
Mm.
I could hear little intricate things and learn some licks because there was some hard stuff in there. Like it was not easy to learn at all, especially like
Mm.
the intro. I think I have it posted on my Instagram, that the intro that the band played. That was one of the hardest things I had to learn how to do. And there's no music. And I'm
Mm.
just like, what is going on? So a lot of it I had to learn by almost by feel too. Just I'm like, I don't know what time signature this is or where the hits are. I'm counting the amount of notes I'm putting in between the hits. Oh, here it's 5, here it's 7, whatever it lines up. But yeah, it was a crazy experience kind of creating my own cheat sheet of getting through the show. And then we had 2 days of maybe a day and a half of rehearsal before we put it up and then we were going.
When you're on these kind of shows, did you have any kind of nightmares where you might have forgotten something? It turned into a train wreck, or were you just ready and things went pretty much as planned?
I was ready and I put in the time. So there was nothing that was like crazy. Oh my God, stop the show. This isn't right. All that preparation where I feel like I got that ingrained in my mind back during my piano recitals because I would just get chewed out because I wouldn't have my piano recital song memorized. And then they'd be like, too bad, you have to play memorized. And then I'd go up and I'd mess it up. And it's the most embarrassing thing in the world. And I was in like 5th grade. And I think that's so ingrained in my mind where now when I'm learning something and prepping something, I'm like, I make it become me. So like it's so ingrained in your body where it's even if you have a mental lapse or even if your hand seizes up or if something's a little weird, your hip gets tense, you can still push through. And it's making those mistakes so small because we all make mistakes. But I feel like the thing that I've been learning through the years is like getting past those small mistakes and continuing like nothing happened. You're covering it up. because it happens, but not letting it affect the rest of your playing, moving on and just keeping going, pushing forward. I was absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified. The first couple shows, I was like, I couldn't even tell you how they went because I was just, my body was doing its thing and I was just hyper focused on what was going on because I'm like, I can't mess this up. This is really a cool, big thing that I want to have more opportunities to do in the future. So my career riding on this, and I'm like, so I'm just like, oh, hyper focused, so into it that couldn't tell you what happened. But it was good.
It's a very similar experience to subbing your first show. Your stakes are high. You got to be prepared. You
Yep.
can't really make any big mistakes, and your career is riding on it.
Yes. I feel like even after you sub one show, even on the second show I did, I was more calm and I think I had much more confidence because by the time I got to the second show, I had so much more experience that I could bring to the table. But I was still like, holy cow, okay, backing out now. Here we go.
Second show for me, a lot of times, and I stopped doing it after a couple of times where you're like, I got this, I can do this. But no,
No, no, no, no, no.
second show sometimes can be harder than the first because you think that you have it right, but then you're not really as focused as you were on the first. And when you let your guard down, that's when the left jab comes. You're like, oh, where'd that come from?
What? Yeah. It's so true. It's so true.
Or like the ball in the pickleball court goes by you. What the?
What? Where did that come from?
It's a Serena Williams serve.
Oh gosh, I'm scared. I'd be scared.
Being on these shows and on tour, did you have any kind of gear malfunction, and how have you dealt with that?
Yeah,
Dropping sticks or
I drop
music
sticks all
not
the
turning?
time. I have a stick bag attached to my floor tom, and it's stocked with sticks because I know I'm going to drop a stick. Just being loose in the hands and loose in the fingers. It's just how I play, where sometimes I just throw them. I don't even consider that a malfunction. That's just another day.
That's true. That's true.
I haven't really had any drum gear problems. Like I haven't broken heads while I've been playing. Nothing crazy. I've had, I guess it's not a malfunction, more of a malfunction on me. Those little Meinl tambourine hi-hat things, those little rings that you can put on the hi-hat.
Yeah.
So there's a super quick change where I have it on the hi-hat and I'm playing, and then I have to take it off while like playing something else with one hand, because then I have to go swing on the hi-hat. And I remember this very vividly now. We were in Dallas and I picked it up and I felt like a pinch, and the thing like sliced, what was it, my thumb? It took a chunk out and it like stuck to my hand, and I like dropped it through it and was playing, and I looked down at my hand and it's just, oh, I'm bleeding.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
we were playing, and as we were playing, I had like 3 seconds of time to stop, and I turned on my talkback mic and I was like, I need a Band-Aid. And then I was playing again. And then finally, one of the stage managers had time to run down and bring me a Band-Aid. But by this time, we were into the next song because this show moves just so fast. And it's bad. It's one of the big band songs. So I'm playing brushes, like sticking my thumb out, but bleeding out. I bled all over the snare drum. There was blood on the cymbals. There was blood on my clothes.
Oh,
And then finally the Band-Aid arrived, and I like had a second to wrap my finger up and then continue playing the show with a big old Band-Aid.
wow.
That was a time. That was a time.
That's crazy.
But we kept
Have
going.
you ever done this yet where you're playing and you mean to hit the floor tom with your stick, but you hit your kneecap? Has that happened to you yet?
Yeah. There's a couple times where I have to cross over and I'm playing like a groove and I play the floor tom with my left hand and I fully just smack my own hand.
Oh,
That one hurts just saying it. But yeah,
yeah.
plenty of times I hit myself all the time.
There will be times where your bass drum pedal, I don't think what happened to me a long time ago, the beater flew someplace else and the shaft went right into the bass drum and split it in half. And other times where I've forgotten my bass drum pedal for a club date.
Oh no.
You're unpacking the whole kit. And they're like, "Where's the bass drum pedal?" Luckily, it was like 6:30 or 7, and the sound guy ran over to Guitar Center and got another bass drum pedal. But I had to play like the cocktail set, cocktail hour, not a cocktail hour, the beginning music where it's really soft. So I
Yeah.
turned my bass drum to the side. I used a beater to play the bass drum.
Dang. I was like, did you just kick it with your foot? That worked? I don't know. That's like me. The one thing, especially in New York, forgetting the clutch, or have you
Oh
noticed
yeah.
a lot of the hi-hats are like the bitter end are like different sizes, like they have a different size rod. So like I have this Yamaha
Yes.
that's a different size rod, and I also have to bring my DW clutch because I there's been times where I show up and I'm like,
You can't put it on.
no. And then the place is like, you don't have one. And I'm like,
Yeah. That's funny, man. Trials and tribulations of being a professional musician.
you live and you learn.
So, you're doing this Shuck tour and there's other things that may be coming down the road. If you could have one kind of gig or one gig where you could do for an extended period of time, any artist, any style, any setting, what would it be?
The dream, I want to play in arenas. That would be pretty cool. Put me on an arena stage with Michael McDonald, as we
Christopher
talked about
Cross.
before, that Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind, Yacht Rock. If I could just sit there and groove and play the Yacht Rock stuff anywhere in theaters with something I do want to do more work with artists and that sort of thing, because when I did the Clay and Ruben thing, I was like, this is amazing. I love this, the freedom of it, and just me being able to play my own stuff and what I curate. You're writing your own parts, playing with big artists. I think that's a goal. Eventually, I got to figure out how to do that. But Yacht Rock, let's go. Michael McDonald, I'll play with him.
I
Yeah.
tell you, I know that a lot of people want to play on Broadway. I get it. It's exciting. The money's good, especially if you have a steady show that runs for a long time. You're in New York City, you come out and people are screaming. They're not really screaming for you because they don't know that you just played because you're in the pit. But I tell you what, you're on stage with Ruben and Clay. You're on stage, right? You get to see the entire audience. You get to feel they're screaming at you, not you, but they're screaming at everybody on stage. You feel that energy. When it was 1998, I first got a chance to feel what it was like to be a rock star, kind of for a day. We were opening up the rock slash metal band that I was in, Evil Twins. We were opening up for Creed, January of 1998. We were the first band
Whoa.
of three. It was in Hartford, Connecticut. There was like, I don't know, 2,000 people, 1,500 people in this venue. We started playing and it was packed. After the third song, our lead singer was like, "So how we doing?" And everybody's like, ah. We started the fourth song and there was a mosh pit. And it was the greatest feeling. I'm like, I'm playing and I seen the mosh pit. Then afterwards, I threw my sticks out in the audience and people wanted autographs. But just that feeling of instant gratification and the
Yeah.
feeling of the energy of the people, it's way different than being in a drum booth in a different theater than your show is.
Oh, totally.
And then you're by yourself. You're looking at the conductor cam and you got to go find people to be with. And again, doing your gig and doing Ain't Too Proud or Lady Day was different because we were on stage, but
Yeah.
or doing any Broadway show, it's wonderful, but it's just a different feeling to be on
Totally different.
stage.
I think what's one thing that I've learned too from sitting in the pits and like watching people, because a lot of the guys that have shows and stuff have done both. And I think it's so important. I was talking to Rosa about this a while ago. It's so important to go and get that experience, like touring with bands. Like I toured with bands. I toured with this bluegrass, like folk rock band all through my college days. It's crazy. That was one of my longest band experiences. And then that was the first show that I was able to sub on Broadway. It was like the same thing. But I think it's like getting that experience, but then being able to bring those styles and those genres like into the Broadway pit. And even though you're in the pit, like when I'm playing Shuck, like I'm playing a rock concert for myself. Like I'm playing this country concert for myself, and it's that energy, bringing that energy being able to bring that energy into your little drum box where you're not, you have to bring it yourself rather than the crowd feeding it to you. I think that's really just changed my playing after I realized, like, seeing Sean play and just seeing him just hit the drums and just groove hard, and seeing Jago play, just he's down there, just he's in his own little world, just playing his own rock concert, probably picturing people in front of him on this big stage. Like, having that energy, I think that really benefits to Broadway shows and stuff. And I think sometimes there's a disconnect where it's Broadway, so we're just playing like this. And there are shows that totally call for that. And there's times, and that's Shucked. There's times where I'm just doing a little swing on the hi-hat, doing a little two beat, but then there's times where I'm putting my whole body into it because that's the energy that it needs. And that comes from pretending I'm playing my own rock concert.
That's a great way of putting it, though.
I'm good.
I feel that when I was playing Ain't Too Proud, and a lot of older drummers, that most of the people that have been successful on Broadway have come from outside, and we wind up on Broadway because that's where all the gigs are. It's with the highest
Yeah.
paying, most and
Consistent.
the great musicians are playing on Broadway. When I was doing Memphis, all the people that were subbing for me, I was like, my God, this person played with Ashford and Simpson and Aretha Franklin and Cameo and all these great people. But when I'm playing a show, I'm thinking, okay, I'm playing a recording session. I got to get this right. I can tell by the way people play whether they're playing from experience of having that musicality of playing with the country and bluegrass bands and Clay and Rubin and other things that you've done. I could tell instantly that you've done stuff outside of theater. There are people that I see, again, it's maybe your generation where they put stuff up on Instagram. And I know that all they've done is play shows because they sound like they've just played shows instead of playing the music where the shows came from.
That's what everybody that I've talked to that I look up to has told me. I've heard it on your podcast too. Some of the big cats that you've told. I think maybe it was a Damien interview. He's still a guy I haven't met yet, but I'd like to
Oh
someday.
man, Davy's great, man. Yeah, go to the source.
I remember him talking about the Jagged Little Pill show where Alanis Morissette music, having that understanding of how that album was played, and then being able to just, you have this deeper understanding. Learn the music at the source, because Broadway is just like a knockoff of what that music is. But having that understanding, the source of where the music comes from, being able to put that into the Broadway drum book as you're writing the book, or then as your subs come in, them having an understanding of that, where that music came from, originated from, how it really feels, like it just makes the world of a difference. And I feel like that elevates the playing of what you can bring to the table.
Amen.
Amen. I'm trying to learn, dude. I'm trying to learn.
That's the reason why I recommended you, because I could tell that you could play music instead of just playing Broadway. And that's why you are where you are right now. And speaking of Shucked may not last forever. The question I was going to ask is, what's next after? Of course, you don't know what's next, but you might have answered the question anyway by letting me know that you're interested in playing with Michael McDonald and the Doobie
Yeah.
Brothers if they come back. And I'm sure I hear bands like Wolfpack. Is that how you pronounce their name?
Wolfpack. Yeah. Yeah.
They have a kind of vibe like that. It's very funky, but they have some great melodies and great songs that are very major chordish.
Yeah. Major chordish with a little jazz sprinkled in there.
Yes, yeah, a little jazz funk and fun. They
Yeah.
seem cool. I don't know. Obviously, they have their own collective. I'm sure there are a lot of new bands that have that kind of vibe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually, it was probably like 2 months ago. I took the week off because I got asked to go record this album with this band. And the reason I said yes was because it's called Surf and Turf. So you already know that it's pretty yacht rock heavy. Like, you're just, the vibe of it all is. And I was like, I heard the demos. And I was like, oh, I have to play this. I wasn't making any extra money from subbing out. I was probably losing a little bit, but it was worth it to go get in the studio and just play these songs that fulfill the hole that's there. When you're playing a musical, when you're playing the same thing over and over. Don't get me wrong, I love it. And day in and day out, I love it. But there's so much more. And I feel like that's why doing studio sessions like that, or I've been like working on writing my first album, like an instrumental album. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's all over the place. It's a lot of just instrumental, like funk. There's some kind of Afro-Cuban Latin stuff in there. There's some more Hans Zimmer-esque, like big orchestral, but with drums and stuff. But yeah, I've been like working on that and like practicing that stuff before the show just to keep that, the artistic, creative side of the brain kind of full and whole, and to keep pushing along and to keep learning and to keep, because playing the same thing over and over can, it's just what it is. And I can't think of the word for it. I don't want to say stagnant, but it is in a way.
Mm.
That's why I think it's so important for people that are doing long-term gigs like this, like having those outlets of doing these other things. Because at the end of the day, you are going into work and you're going to play it how it is, and you're going to play this thing, and that's all you're playing. But it's, I want to keep progressing in a way. So I'm writing more, and that's why I transcribe stuff all the time from college back in the day when I was transcribing all the Buddy Rich stuff and Sonny Rollins stuff, because that's what we had to do for jazz. So now once a week, I'm like, I find a video of something I like, or like a lick I like, and I transcribe it, and then I try to learn it, put it into my practice routine. I just went on a tangent for no reason, but
No, there's the one person, I can't remember who said it on the podcast. He talked about people getting show chops. I don't know if it's he
yeah.
or she, but doing the same thing over and over again. You definitely, that you're really good at that. But somebody calls and says, "Yeah, I want you to play with Clay and Ruben." You're like, "I know how to play Shucked. I know how to
Yeah.
play Skimble Shanks."
Yeah, I can play in 15/8.
Oh man, stop counting after a while in that song. I just
Yeah.
felt it.
You have to. You can't count that. Ugh.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, he came and saw our show and he really enjoyed it. Over the years of meeting a lot of celebrities, quote unquote, I don't really
Yeah.
like to call them celebrities. They're just very well known people, but he's created so many legendary shows. On one hand, I'm like, damn, this is fucking Andrew Lloyd Webber. So he wasn't by himself, but I was the first person out. And he was going to meet the cast. And he was sitting there surrounded by three other people. And they all got up because I was there first. And I was like, oh, very nice to meet you, Mr. Webber. And he didn't really say anything. It was just his other people like came up to me, almost like his bodyguards are like, "Yeah, so you're the drummer of the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, hey." It was just really weird, but he seemed like a nice guy and he really is appreciative of what we did. But I just don't know why he writes everything in such odd times, man. I'm like, that's what I felt like asking him. It's like, why did you write this in 15/8? Why
Yeah.
is I don't I now I can't remember any of the songs from the show, but almost all of his shows have some song which is like 15/8, 7/8, 4/4, 4/4. It's just weird. For some reason it works.
Yeah. It's some
Not
reason you look at Jesus Christ Superstar, you're grooving in 5/4, you're grooving in 7/8. Same
mm.
with Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh, really?
That's everyone hates that show, but I loved playing that show. But there's a whole swing section in, I can't even remember. There's a swing section in 7 in that, and I'm just like, I'm swinging in 7. That doesn't make sense.
Maybe there should be an odd time yacht rock musical. That would just ruin
Have
it
to do
though.
some writing.
If somebody wants to get in contact with you, how do they do?
I'm always open to Instagram messages. I got my Instagram. I don't even know what it is. Let me look up what it is. I think it's just my name and then the number 4. Yeah, Patrick Phalen 4 is the Instagram.
Four as in the American four?
The American 4, not the Roman numeral. Good question. Because I'm pretty sure my website is the Roman numeral. That, or like my email is the same, Patrick Phalen 4, the number 4 at gmail.com. And yeah, I'm pretty good at getting back on both of those things, I like to think. But I love when people reach out. It's a kind of a cool feeling because I used to be that person. I still am that person, but giving it back, going both ways, it's cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Patrick Phelan 4. If you have kids, will you have a Patrick Phelan 5?
That's the plan. A heavy weight on my shoulders, isn't it? Dang, if I don't have a son and name him Patrick.
So a daughter, Patricia.
Oh, I hate that name. I'm sorry. Anybody named Patricia, no offense, but I can't stand that name. I don't know why.
Why? Is it because it's close to Patrick, or you just don't never liked it? Do you like Stacy, Sally?
Stacy? Stacy's a good name. Sally, yeah. Yeah, I think it's too close to Patrick and it's just Patricia. Rolls weird off the tongue.
What if your wife says, you know what, guys, I love Patricia. And you'd be like, nope,
I'd be
sorry.
like, I'm so sorry. This isn't going to work. Just be honest.
Like when you're on your first date, you got to make sure you ask if we ever have kids.
Yeah, you got to lay the ground rules. We just got to be on the same page. That's it.
That's funny. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your tour whenever it ends. Hopefully, it
Thanks.
runs for a long time and you get something else or you get your own show. I wish you the best. It's very nice to catch up with you. Enjoy Schenectady.
Thanks, man.
Go.
It was good to see you. Good to chat.
All right, man. We will talk soon and maybe you'll catch up with me in another city because I don't know how long I'll be in New York.
We'll find a way. We'll make something happen for sure.
Yes, we will. All
Awesome.
right. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Clayton.
All right. Bye.